Hello, Magic is Real listeners. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Shannon Torrance. I'm a psychic medium, and I am the host of this podcast on which we talk about near death experiences and other spiritually transformative experiences. Today, I have with me Vinny Tolman. I'm very happy to have with me today, and he's going to tell us about his near death experience, what he's learned, share some insights, and I just want to thank him so much for taking the time out to be here today. So thank you, Vinny.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. It's absolutely my pleasure.
I'm so glad. As I was saying, you've told your story so many times on so many podcasts, so I do appreciate you telling it again. Well, first of all, I'd just like you to introduce yourself and who are you as a human being? How do you describe yourself? If I said, "Tell me about yourself, Vinny."
Well, I love being a dad. It's my favorite job that I've ever had. I love being a husband and I love being a family man. That's kind of the core of who I am. But I also love working with people and helping them find healing, helping them move beyond their own past and their own traumas and kind of unlocking the soul, allowing the soul out to play. And that's what I do for my 9 to 5 is I help people um, get access to their own soul.
That's a beautiful, rewarding job. So let's talk about what led you here. First of all, when you were young and you were growing up, were you a spiritual person?
I always was intuitive. I've always been intuitive. It was, it was kind of a pattern of habit that I had to have for survival. I was raised in a bit of an abusive upbringing, and I needed to know when the abuse was coming. So I was very good at knowing when it was coming, even when no one else knew. Um, that was kind of my growing up, but I'm so grateful for it because it makes me a stronger intuitive now. And ever since my experience, I do have that intuitive strength even stronger now because of the experience. But I was a little bit of a spiritual guy. I was more comfortable alone out in the wilderness than I ever was in groups of people, for sure. I almost would take the threats of the unknown from the wilderness than the threats of the known amongst mankind. So
Would you
that's who I was growing up.
that's
Yeah.
why women pick the bear over the man in
Yep.
the you know about that, right? Yeah. So for anyone who doesn't know, there's something going around where they've asked women, if you were alone in the forest, would you rather encounter a bear or a man? And immediately, and me too, bear, because a bear might kill you, but they don't have malicious intent. They're not there to do something to you. So,
Mhm.
and man is unpredictable. Now, and don't get it wrong, people. It doesn't mean that we hate men or that we don't think most men are wonderful. It's just that if there's that one man, they're way scarier than the bear. So I understand that. And I actually think it's very common. And I've heard this a lot. I'm a medium, and I know that a lot of mediums have had trauma as a child, which puts you in a state of hypervigilance. And that's where your brain becomes more tuned into the subtle energies and subtle signs. So that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and I've noticed that I'm part of the IANS organization, which is an organization that studies near-death experiences. And every single time I find someone that has an extensive, very detailed experience, there's a strong chance that person had an abusive upbringing, and it makes that sensitivity so much stronger, and that's what allows you to remember your experience.
Exactly. I will be at the IONS conference in Phoenix in a few weeks
Week,
volunteering. So will you be there?
I will. I'm going to
Okay.
be keynoting there. Yeah,
Yay. Okay, so I'll see you there. So let's get into your life and when this. I know that this happened in 2000. I had it not. What was it? 2006?
2003,
Three. I knew it
2003.
was
Yeah.
a divisible by three. And tell us what happened.
Well, I had taken a new supplement. Me and my best friend had taken this new supplement We didn't know that when you ordered it from overseas, it was 20 times stronger than the American stuff. And so it was evidently toxic. The very second we took it, we both took it at the same time. And as soon as we did, we both knew we were in trouble. But being 25 years old, you think you're invincible. We didn't call 911. We didn't get in a car and drive to the hospital. We drove to a burger joint where we knew they were serving breakfast. So we figured, hey, let's go grab some breakfast. Maybe that'll make us feel better. And I made it into the lobby, stumbled over to the bathroom, went in that bathroom and locked the door because it was a single use bathroom. And meanwhile, my buddy, he stumbled in, he collapsed on the first booth he could reach. And right then and there, he started to vomit. And the manager came over, he called 911, but nobody saw us come in together. So about 45 minutes to an hour later, they discovered me in the bathroom dead. And I wasn't breathing, I was cold. And they did call 911 a second time that morning. Emergency services got there within about 5 minutes of the phone call, and they pronounced the body dead. And from the time that they came on scene and the time that they left was about 45 minutes on paper. So from the pronouncement of DOA until they're leaving the scene was 45 minutes. And about 2 minutes after they left the scene, this rookie medic, he felt a prompting, he felt a message get delivered to him that this one wasn't dead. So he went ahead and attempted resuscitation, despite breaking protocols, because he had to break protocols to do that. I was already in a body bag, and he did attempt resuscitation, didn't get any sign of life the first round. Second round, he got a single heartbeat, and the third round, he got a steady heartbeat. So, recorded on paper from time of pronouncement of death or the DOA until the heart was resuscitated was 47 minutes exactly. So on paper, they know for sure 47 minutes I was gone, but possibly an hour 47, because from the time that they called the first ambulance till the second ambulance was almost a full hour.
That in itself is miraculous, that you
Yes.
are completely functioning. I don't know if you
Yeah,
have brain injury, but you don't you're so that's a miracle.
it is. Yeah, and in fact, when I did wake up, I was in a coma for 3 days. So I was brain dead for 3 days. But when I woke up, everybody in the hospital was calling me Miracle Boy. They kept calling me that I was the Miracle Boy. I didn't feel like it, but that's what they called me.
Yeah, I've listened to your story. My jaw dropped only when you said the thing about not knowing that it was 20 times more potent than the dose that you would receive here, and I did and I you hadn't in the what I watched, you hadn't mentioned that at the time, and so that's
Yeah.
unbelievable. Like, it's terrifying that there's no disclaimer, there's no
Yeah.
information that would, like, warn you about this.
Well, the
So
hard part
yeah,
is the bottle that we bought from Thailand,
wasn't in
it was
English?
it wasn't in English. It only
Right.
had Thai writing on it. And bodybuilding was kind of like a new thing even in Thailand. And they were trying to market their product over the United States. But why send a watered down solution? They were sending the extract. And what should have been one drop of this liquid supplement, we took an entire bottle cap, which was exactly
Oh my
20
god.
times more than what we should have.
Wow, that's crazy. Now, I know that when you so you the way that you t well, I'll let you tell it, of course, but right after you collapse, what happens? What's your experience of being dead?
So my experience was that the room started to spin on me, and I knew I had walked in that bathroom. I was conscious of all that. I was conscious that I was so dizzy, and I was also conscious of the cold feeling coming over my chest and my legs. Like, it actually felt cold. Now later in my life, I've had some anesthesiology done to my body before surgery, and it feels exactly like an anesthetic, almost like I was being put under. And that's probably the effect of that chemical in the supplement is it was acting as an anesthetic when taking that much of it. But so I felt that coldness, I felt the numbness starting to come onto my legs and my chest. And then the room started to spin. And the very next thing I know, I feel like I'm up sitting in a comfortable theater chair and I'm looking down at this scene unfold be below me, but I was looking truly from above, just exactly how everybody else sees it. I was watching from above, but the difference between me and a lot of others, I didn't know what I was looking at was my own body because by then the body didn't look like me at all. He looked like he was wearing my clothes, but I looked down and I'm like, that couldn't be me. The neck had swollen really wide. In fact, the neck had gotten wider than the jaw at that point. And I don't know if this is a normal thing or not, but with the suffocation that was going on, it really worked the neck, and the neck had swollen wider than the jaw. And then the color on the cheeks was very, very yellow and almost like a Barney purple, like very vivid purple. It didn't look real. It truly didn't. And so looking down, I thought, well, that's kind of a bad Hollywood job. They need to do a better job at that. That doesn't look real. And I remember that's one of the first things I thought. One of the second things I thought was, why would the director shoot this movie from above? That's kind of silly. Like nobody wants to watch that movie. And one of my past jobs was working in TV and film, so I did have kind of that eye for what would make a good shot and what would make a bad shot, and I thought, well, that's weird. Why would the director do this? Um, Next thing I know, I am worried about my buddy. Somehow, in that space, logic isn't working because I'm over here worried about my buddy. I can see him collapsed on the table. I see that this medical team, they come and attend to him. They put him on a stretcher. They take him away. But as they take him away, I tried to follow and go with his ambulance. And I got to a certain point, maybe 100 feet away from the building. And then I felt like this pulling pulled me back. So I didn't understand that either. I was also experiencing telepathy where I could hear the thoughts of every single person in that building, including the customers and the guests inside the restaurant. I could hear every single one of their thoughts. There was this man and this woman, they were talking, and it's funny, the man was not even thinking about anything that the woman was talking about. He was like off in La La Land, and at the same time he would bring himself back and be like, oh yeah, you gotta listen. It was just funny how all these conversations were going on. I was very cognizant of all of this, but yet I kept looking back at this dead body thinking, this poor guy, nobody's going to find him. And I do remember watching one of the guests, the one who wasn't listening to his wife. He had to go to the bathroom. He went and got the manager of the restaurant because he kept trying to open the bathroom. It wouldn't open up. And after an hour, like almost a full hour of him trying to open that bathroom, he got the manager to open up the restroom, and sure enough, there was a dead body on the floor, and that was the first that anyone had seen it. The manager of the restaurant did get one of his assistant managers, which was like a 16-year-old girl. He sent her over there to touch, to like see if there's any signs of life. While he was on the phone with 911, they were coaching him through what to do, and he was coaching her. And when she went to feel for a pulse on the neck, again, that neck was really, really wide. It was almost hard to find the jawline because the neck had swollen so much. When she touched the neck, it was cold and clammy to the touch. So she like, pulled back and she was like, it's cold. And as soon as they heard that, the 911 operator said, hey, secure the bathroom. We're sending police. We're also sending an ambulance. And it was only about 3 minutes later there was an ambulance there. about 5 minutes after the phone call was made. So it was very, very quick. The ambulance came. It had three medics. It had two veterans and a rookie. This rookie, it was his first week off of orientation, and he was supposed to shadow these veteran medics for a week or two. And I could feel his uncomfortableness with seeing a dead body. I could also feel that he wanted so bad to try to help this one. And as they, bagged up the body and put it in the back of the ambulance, they made him sit back there and babysit the body while they went in and did paperwork on witness statements and other paperwork of the manager that, who found him first. And they got done with all of this. This is about 30, 40 minutes of paperwork. When they got done, they were leaving the scene. They did wait for a patrol car. There was a policeman who had come. They traded some paperwork with them. The policeman gave them the go ahead and take it to the medical examiner. And they were taking the body off to the medical examiner when this rookie sitting in the back of the ambulance, he felt something tell him that this one's not dead. And that was enough. He did hear it twice. He heard it once and didn't do anything. Second time he heard it, he instantly went into action. He unzipped the body bag. He felt around for a pulse. He didn't feel anything. He unzipped the body bag further, and he went down to the femoral artery, which is on the inside of the leg. And when he was feeling around for that, there was a shock. It felt like a spark or a shock. And that was enough for him. That was enough of a sign that he wanted to try to resuscitate this body. So he did. He hooked up a defib machine. He forced oxygen into the lungs. And after the third round of shocks, there was a steady heartbeat. And that's, to me, that's not just even the first miracle. The first miracle is that they had that rookie on that team. The second miracle is that he followed that premonition, that prompting. But the third miracle to me is they could have taken a different route, but the route that they were driving that day, it had them in front of a hospital when the heart started. So they were able to turn within seconds, within mere seconds, they were able to turn and get into a hospital and turn in this body so that they could start bringing back all the other systems within the body. Um, and that's, I was watching all of this from above. I was hearing the thoughts of this rookie medic as he stared, looking at the body bag, wishing that he could do something, and feeling him have this idea that maybe I should try after he felt the second prompting. And then as they were transferring the body into the hospital, the body itself went through some big seizures. It was vomiting still, still had more stuff to come up out of the stomach. And as it was doing so, they started to strap the body down so they could work on it because in full seizure, you can't work on a body like that. So they were strapping it down. They first strapped the legs, which is no problem. They strapped the right arm, no problem. But then they went to strap the left arm, and I'm left-handed. And as they did, um, I looked down to my left arm, and I saw the strap on the bed, and I saw it was my arm that was in that strap. And I resisted. I actually broke that first strap. Then they came back with a bigger strap and strapped that left arm. And that was a huge aha for me. I went from this is some type of viewing experience to all of a sudden feeling like, no, this is my experience. This is my body. And I had no idea. The best way I can equate this to is if you're driving down the street and you see a car that looks like your car, you see a person inside driving that looks just like you, they're wearing your clothes. But you think for every second that you're seeing this, but that can't be me because me's over here in this car. And that's the only way I can explain it that makes sense. I didn't know. I truly didn't know until they had revived the body, till they had gotten the heart going. And I saw those straps. Those straps were My coming alive moment where I realized that that was my body that had been going through all of this. At that very moment, I had a big, big hit of fear, just tremendous amount of fear. And there was a lot of ego thought attached to that. Like, how could you be such an idiot? How could you not know that you've been watching your own death? And as that fear and that judgment came over me, I started to feel like the light that was me was about to be put out. And then I started seeing every bad thing I ever did, every bad thing, from the littlest thing to the greatest bad thing I ever did. Um, Even mean things I said to my brothers and sisters, mean thoughts, mean actions. Anytime I did something negative, I was seeing it and in just a flash, just very quick flashes. And then I had this thought, like, why do I even exist? If this is what I am, why do I exist? And as soon as I had that thought, this warmth started to come over me. And with that warmth came all of these memories of good things that I did, like really good things. And all of the good that I did with others when people took that good and did even more good. I felt just a pristine love from the universe or from, if we want to call it God. Like I felt this supreme love coming over me. And as I did, I started to realize that I was loved and that this love directionally was coming from behind me. And I turned around to see this man all dressed in white. He had like a white suit on, long white sleeves. He had kind of a white robe over the suit and long white beard, long white hair, very pink skin. His skin glistened like sun or sand in the sunlight. It just glistened with light, and light was pouring out of this gentleman. And my first thought was, as his eyes connected to me, I thought, "You must be God." And instantly, I knew he wasn't, because he somehow communicated instantly to me, "No, son, I'm not God." And so my only follow-up thought was, well, if you're not God, then is it possible that you're Jesus? Because I was raised Christian and I thought for sure it had to be one or the other or both, like one and the same. I knew it had to be something like that. And he said, "No, my name is Drake, and I'm here to be your guide. I'm here to help you go wherever you want to go." And with that invitation, I got excited. I got so excited. I growing up, I was a Star Wars fan, Star Trek fan. I love sci-fi. And I just instantly thought, like, anywhere in the universe, I can go anywhere. And that lasted for about a second. And then I realized, well, wait, I want to go wherever this love is coming from. That's where I want to go. And he explained that that love that I was feeling was coming from my home, and that that was his home, and that he could take us home. He could take both of us home. So we began this journey, just this profound journey. And to me, this is all happening while I was brain dead for the 3 days. But I went on this life journey, life altering journey with Drake. He showed me that I had a lot of what I needed to get into that heavenly space, into my home. But I still had some things I had to work on. I still had some ideas and some belief systems that I had to tweak and adjust and perfect. And as we work through those different systems, those different steps, I actually got to see that heavenly realm, and it's a very real place. It's not just this psychological place; it's an actual physical place, but it's at a much higher dimension than what we have access to here. Even if we could get our technology to get us to the vicinity of this place, we wouldn't see it because we'd have to raise our sensitivity and raise our love energy to be able to even see it. Almost like hummingbird wings. When the hummingbird is in front of you, it doesn't even look like they have wings. It's barely a blur there. But if you raise your frequency, raise your ability to see, you can see those wings, flapping. And that's what it's like. We have to raise our love energy to get there, to get ourselves to match the energy of the heavenly space to our home. And as I got through it, it took me a while. I figure most of my 3 days was trying to get there, because once I got there, it didn't feel like I was there long, and then I was forced back. But as I got there, I had touched down in this pristine space, this planet, and it is a planet. Um, it was bigger than a million Earths. It's huge. As we touched down in this space, on my feet, they touched the grass, and as they came down in the grass, my toes came down into the grass. It felt like I was being plugged in to a network, to a system that I missed so bad, that I ached to have connection to. And that grass, it was full of that supreme love that I was feeling from my guide. And that grass had individual consciousness in every blade, but it also had unity consciousness. And it was asking me questions, and I was asking it questions, and we were conversing just using our minds. And as I was feeling this beautiful love come off the grass, I recognized that the grass itself had a music coming off of it, that it had this sweet smell. And if you could smell it, you could taste it. You actually taste the beauty and the peace and the love in that grass. And Drake, I didn't want to lose sight of him. I didn't want to get kind of lost in heaven there. And so I looked over at him, and when I did, he just had this huge beam of a smile, and he was kind of laughing, and he said, "If you think the grass is great, you should see the flowers." And I almost lost it right then and there. I was like, "What? There's flowers? There's what?" And it was almost like I had to perceive the grass first before I could perceive the flowers, before I could perceive anything else. It's almost like he was being my training wheels and getting me into that realm and starting to recognize just the basics. So, as soon as I had that thought that, oh, there's flowers, I want to see flowers, he put my consciousness on this single flower. I'll never forget it. The flower itself, it looked like a cross between some type of lotus slash tulip slash um, just beautiful flower. This burgundy purple red that was gradually going in on each petal. You could see that the flower itself looked almost edible or clear, and light was liquid inside of it, and it was glowing and vibrating this light at me. And I could feel the supreme consciousness of just that flower, and how much it loved me, and how much it loves all of creation. And then Drake, he kind of got my attention and said, "If you like the flowers, you should check out the trees." And again, I just had a little meltdown. I was like, "There's trees? What? How is there trees?" And so then he showed me trees, and I got to feel the peaceful love that comes off of this hive of trees. Because the trees were individuals, but they had networked to each other, where they were a symbiotic organism, where if you could speak to one, you could speak to all. And so I started to talk to these beautiful trees, and tell them how beautiful they were and how amazing they were. And they were telling me how beautiful and amazing they thought I was. And I couldn't even translate that. I couldn't even understand that. I just was so aghast at how amazing just the plants were in this heaven space. And as I was, just head over heels for these trees, I felt this this contact with my toe. And I looked down, and what had happened is some water had come up out of a stream, and it had come over to my feet, and it had made contact with my toe, my big toe. And as soon as it made contact, I connected it, and I was speaking with the water. And the water asked, it said, "Do you want us to come over you, to come onto you?" And I said, "Yes, I do. I definitely do." So the water, it started at my feet, starting with my toes. It started over both feet, went up my legs, and it just started encapsulating me in this pristine, loving water. And I feel that, when we on earth are doing things like baptism and different ceremonies and ordinances and services like this, we're emulating what this is. And what this water did is that as it went over me, it started to heal and fix all the damage that this really rough life had given me. And it healed it at the atomic level, but also the spiritual level. And so I was receiving this healing of this water as it came up over me, and as it completed itself over the top of my head, I knew it was done now, and so it started to come back down off of me. But I could feel with every atom of that water that there was a supreme love for all of us, for all of life, and that this whole world there, that whole heaven world, our home is built out of this unconditional love for us. And that there was nothing I could do to deserve that kind of love. That I was getting that kind of love because I existed, because I was created by the creator. And I knew that all of creation is looked at like this, all of creation, that there isn't favored creation and less favored, that we are all favored, that we are all loved like this. That water completely changed me. As it came off of me, I was a different person at that point. And if I was going to give you an exact point of change, that's where it is. That's where I changed the most. And when that water was done with me, I was a different person, completely different person. I have different tastes, different importances, different priorities now than before. And I equate that to the whole experience, but especially this water experience. As the water came down off of me, I did see this beautiful building. It was a big building. You could tell that the entire building was made out of one piece of marble. And it was multiple stories, a lot of people going in and out of rooms, but there was no doorways. So people would approach a room and they would match the frequency of the energy inside the room. And an opening would form. They would just walk in, and then like liquid, the opening would just close itself. But you had to match the frequency. But what's really beautiful is each room had kind of a color or a glow, and the person who wanted to get in would match that glow with their excitement and their vibrancy. And then the opening would form, they would go in. But I did see that people would be walking by those rooms that weren't with the matching glow, and no opening would form as they walked past. They were walking to other rooms. And I saw that this was a school. This was a place where we get to learn actual facts, like unperverted facts, facts, and learn about life and learn about energy and learn about our eternal existence. Because I did know instantly the second I had died that I was an eternal being. I knew instantly. I knew it wasn't just this one shot on Earth and then it was over. I knew this was Earth was one episode of a very long show, an eternal show. And as I was going through all this experience, Drake, I noticed, needed my attention. He kind of somehow flickered this energy at me, and I knew he needed my attention. So I turned to him, and he put his arm around me. He looked at me straight in the eyes, and he said, "Vinny, this is going to be really hard. but it's going to be worth it. And he came in and he hugged me. He hugged me and brought my energy together with his. He he showed me the power of bringing two souls together in unconditional love. When we came and had that hug to each other, I felt like a pulsar of energy coming off of us. And it felt 10 times stronger than what we could have been individually. It felt so much stronger than what we were and what we are individually. And as I was, appreciating and enjoying this beautiful hug from him, I then started to hear my own brother from Earth, from my Earth life. He was saying a prayer over my body, and he had commanded my body to be made whole. He had commanded me to return to my body. He commanded my soul to return to my body. And I could feel that he was doing this not out of selfishness, but out of love. I could feel that he was so worried about my mother and how she was going to react to all of this if I was gone for good. And I felt my agency removed primarily. Later on, through meditation, I did find that there had to be a higher self or a higher aspect of myself that agreed to allow myself back to the body. But from that point that I was in at that very moment, it felt like my agency was removed. It felt like my choice was taken away and I was forced back to my body. And my brother had said this prayer over my body just after 10 p.m. And I woke up at 1:11 in the morning. I woke up, I ripped off all the hoses, the diodes, the all the needles that were stuck in me. I even had a catheter in. I pulled it out. Like I pulled everything off of me. Some of the equipment was making some loud alarms. I even unplugged the equipment. I didn't want any noise. I didn't want anything touching me. And for just about 60 seconds, I just stood there trying to take deep breaths. And what had happened is I had woken up not remembering the experience. I think that they don't let you remember right away because it is so traumatic to get back in your body. I did feel this extreme claustrophobia though, like so bad. I still will get it here and there. And I know what it is now is your soul, what your soul is so much bigger than your body here. Just so much bigger. More than 5, 6, 7 times, maybe even 10 times bigger than your body here is your soul. And so for that soul to come back into the body, um, it's very rough on the consciousness. That's why you have to be a baby most of the time to come into a body so that you can cry it out and cry it off without telling everyone how hard it is. Um, so as I was going through that experience, I tried to leave the hospital, only to find my nurses screaming and like thinking that somebody came and snatched a body. I went back to my room and I sat there for about 6 more hours while they did a battery of tests on me. They asked me the same questions over and over for hours. They wanted to prove that I wasn't back all the way and that there was brain damage, but there was none that they could detect. And so I checked myself out of the hospital at 7:30 that same morning. And I went home. I went running. The very next night, I went to a dinner with my sister, and she pulled me aside and asked me if I saw anything when I died. And my mouth tried to form the words, no, are you crazy? That's what I was going to tell her. No, are you crazy? But what came out of my mouth was this whole experience. And it was almost as if something hijacked me and this experience came out of me. But as it was coming out of me, I started weeping because I realized it was my real experience. It's like my body was not even going to let me honor a lie and say no, it didn't happen. It had to let out what actually happened to me. And since then, I've had just countless hundreds of times where I've had confirmations of what had happened. And one of the greatest confirmations was 6 months later. I was in a little town in Wyoming with my fiance, and we see this historical presentation of the town of Afton, Wyoming. And up on the big screen comes this picture of this man, and it says his name's Charles, but it says his last name's Kazare, which my grandmother was a Kazare. So I knew it was Drake. I knew unequivocally it was Drake. I knew it was him. I was very confused why it said his name was Charles, though. So I went directly to my grandmother's house that night, and I came in the house and I go, Grandma, 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 tell me about Charles Kazare. Tell me about this guy. I recognize him. I think I know him. And her exact response was, "Oh, you mean great grandpa Drake? He's kind of famous in our family." And it was just, it sent chills down my back. I froze. I started crying. I now had concrete proof that the man who had been guiding me through my whole experience was a very real person. And not just that, he was my grandmother's great grandfather. And so he would have been my great great grandfather on my grandmother's side. And I was able to have this connection. I had no idea who he was. I never saw his picture before. There was no way for me or my imagination to make that up. And then since then, I've had just countless experience where I follow that intuitive nudge only to see God's work being unfolded in front of me in the most beautiful ways, like pristinely beautiful ways. And I now, from that moment forward, I had enough proof for my ego to believe that, yes, this was real, that, I have a strong ego. It was trying to convince me that this had to be my imagination. It had to be some type of illusion or delusion, But I knew from that moment forward that this was very real and that I needed to share it when it was time with certain people. And there was a lot that I saw. I don't talk about everything to everybody. There was a good chunk of what I saw when I was coming back that and I will talk about in the future at some point, but um I did get to see what our life looks like on earth in the future. And it is so worth any hardship that we have to go through to get there. It is so worth it. So as things are happening and unfolding in front of your eyes, and you think, why has God abandoned us? Don't think that. It is God working us and helping us get ready for what is to come. And it is so worth all the hardship necessary to get us there because it is such a beautiful existence. It is such a beautiful way of being that it is worth the worst hardships to the best hardships. It is worth whatever we need to dedicate or go through to get there, which we will. It's foreordained. We are going to be there. The question is, how long do we resist it before we actually get there? Before we embrace that energy. So um, it's a beautiful experience. I've always felt it was a sacred experience for myself. I didn't share it with very many people other than my wife and some really close friends for a long time. But I felt the call right around 2012 that it was time to now start sharing it very publicly. And so I did. Prior to that, I'd shared it with a few churches and a few church groups and maybe some family groups here and there. But since that call came out to me, I've been sharing it very openly, very publicly, even doing my book and sharing it there. And I only did the book because of demand. Every time I'd share it with a group, they'd ask me, "Where's your book? Where's your book?" And I didn't have one for the longest time. And I tried writing it, but I wasn't able to do it justice. So I had to enroll the very gifted and talented writing of Lynn Taylor, who's my co-author of the book. And with his work and my experience, we were able to put that book together and have it be what it is. I feel it is a game changer for a lot of people.
What's the book called?
It's called The Light After Death.
Uh, Vinny, My eyes are tearing. I don't play favorites. I appreciate all of my guests and their stories, but yours for me is the most affirming and resonant that I've ever heard. I feel like I could just probably will just
Mhm.
break down in sobs when this is all over in a beautiful way. So I want to thank you because I think first of all, just gosh, there's so much to unpack and I'll let the audience sort of let it resonate for them where it resonates. But I just am so blown away because to be a medium, and I started late in life, it requires so much trust and faith. And I still sometimes I don't second guess that it's real because I've had enough readings to know that there's I've had too many readings where I'm like, how on earth would I know that? There's no possible way. And so I
Yeah,
know this is real. And I know I do believe in it 110%, but of course, even as a medium, I tend to go into my human and start doubting, is this really, am I fooling myself? Is this really as real as I think? Or, and I know that's not true, but first of all, when you talked about when you first left your body, first of all, it struck me that you said the body, and you're not the only one who uses that terminology when they're out of their body, because now you have an understanding that your body isn't you. Your
mhm.
body is the corporeal envelope that holds the soul. And so when you're removed from the body, a lot of people talk about not even being connected with the identity of themselves anymore. And it sounds like that was your experience. You were sort of just a witness. And as you said, you thought you were watching a movie. So that really strikes me that it's not my body unless your
Yeah.
soul's really in it.
Yeah, it's not. It's kind of like, walking out to the parking lot and saying, um, "Let's go out to the car," or "Let's go out to my car." I mean, there's some sense of possession to it, but at the same right, eventually that car is gonna break down and wear out.
Yep.
The same way I know that eventually our bodies break down and wear out, but in the future they won't.
Yeah. And I
That's
also
part of that beautiful future where we get to live as long as we desire to live, and then we get to go to our next level up
I'm
when we
so
choose.
excited about what you said. I've been a lot of my people around me are kind of it's really there's some really horrible stuff happening and they're really living in a place of fear and that's valid. So I really hesitate to tell them what I've heard from people like you is that
Mhm.
there really is a place we get to where there is peace and it seems completely impossible. It's how that's impossible. It'll never end. It's just going to keep cycling because that's what it always does. And the more fear we give it, the more we perpetuate that fear and the more it's a reflection of our fear. Do you have anything before I go on? I don't want to hog the
Yes,
mic. Yeah.
absolutely. Just I wanna ask your audience to ask themselves something. If you look out in the worldscape of existence and you feel that it is full of villains and heroes, then you're playing someone else's game. Start playing your own game and recognize that within all beings, there are heroes and villains. That you don't need to believe one person's story of who the hero is and who the villain is. You get to believe everybody has a hero within them, but at the same right, everybody has a villain within them. So when you understand that, you don't need to be someone else's puppet. You don't need to join this party or this team or that team. You can recognize that there's good in all beings, but there's also bad in all beings on earth. But when we get to that heavenly space, we are able to dive into the light and we're able to exist in our primary existence where we're anchored in the light. And there's divine purpose in that. And for us to grow our light, we had to learn about the darkness, and that's what this experience is. It's part of the experience. Once you understand that, there's no losing. There's no freaking out. There's no losing. Don't let others manipulate you.
Thank you for that. Yeah, that's wonderful. And also when you talked about leaving your body and then being able to hear the thoughts of everybody, which is not uncommon.
Yeah.
I have chills about that too, because first of all, as a psychic medium, a lot of people think it's BS. They're like, yeah, that's not a real thing. We're all energy, right? So, and when you did a lot of explaining about the vibration, so raising your vibration to meet the vibration of, for example, the door to a particular classroom on the other
Mhm.
side, that is what, for example, mediumship is all about. That's what connection is all about. Are we
Mhm.
connecting on the same frequency? Are we on the people will say, "Oh, we're not on the same wavelength." I don't know what it is about that person. I don't we're just not kind of energetically in the same space. Doesn't even have to be bad or good. It's just different. And what really struck me about that is that's how we are able to be psychic. Everyone can do it if they have the right sensitivity, the willingness, the understanding. Some people are more sensitive than others. You were able to hear their thoughts because you were in a pure energetic form of high vibration where you were connecting with all of their energy and we communicate telepathically in that form. So when
We
people
do.
ask me how do you connect with quote unquote dead people? Well, they're not dead. I'm connecting with them by raising my vibration and they're lowering their vibration so that we can meet somewhere in the middle. It doesn't always work perfectly.
Yeah.
Which is why when I give readings, sometimes I can't connect at all. Sometimes it's like they're talking right in my ear because we're like, and the person says, "Oh, that's because my mom was just like you. You have the same kind of personality. You have the same kind of, you're really animated and really friendly and really open." It's so interesting to me and validates what I know is that we can sort of read each other's minds, but we're really reading each other's souls. We just don't realize it. So
Yeah.
you were in a higher vibration, so you were able to hear all of the people telepathically, and you're not the only one. What do you say about that?
Yeah, that's what it is. It's like we are plugging into a high frequency network that already exists, and that high frequency network is love and truth. And they're one and the same. Truth comes in the form of love, and love comes from the form of truth. That when we can elevate our love energy, we are accessing that realm that gives us eternal truths. But we can't do that if we're afraid of who the president is. And we can't do that if we're afraid of this bill passing or not passing. We can't do that if we're in constant fear. Fear is the opposite energy. Fear is the anchoring of the ego in the physical realm. It doesn't allow us access to that higher being of one. And when we can release that fear and we can understand that nobody's put you in a corner that you can't get out of because you could end up dying, yes. And that's going to be one of the greatest things ever to happen to you. So stop allowing fear to be such a manipulation on you. And once you do that, you're opening yourself up to that lighter realm, that realm of light, that realm of love. And it's there that you plug into the network, the real network. And it's a network of unconditional truth where you can hear someone speaking to you, but you hear the truth in their words, whether there is truth there or not. And I would call it the gift of perception. It's given to those who plug into the truth, who plug into that light. But you can't do it being someone else's puppet, being an all in left and all in right and all in this team, all in that team. You have to be all in light, all in for the love energy. And whenever we're lacking something, if we go out there and give that very thing to someone else, we are giving ourselves twice as much back as we could ever give to someone else.
That is so important for people to hear right now. I know that it can be perceived as spiritual bypass. I personally do not identify with a political party because I don't play the game. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean I don't care about what's happening. Doesn't mean I'm complacent. It means I literally do not identify as a Republican or a liberal. I literally identify as a soul and a spirit, and that might make people roll their eyes. But to me, what makes the division worse and what makes feeds gives fuel to the fire is like you said, buying into it and the fear.
Mhm.
The more and here's where I was going with something else that you said. This is the thing that blew me away so much listening to your story when you talked about every blade of grass is alive. Every tree, every flower, and you were saying that in this dimension, it's all very real and these things exist there. Well, to me, what that says is it's the thing of God making us in his image. We're all made so it's like the earth is sort of a mirror to the other side,
Mhm.
but we have free will to I was just gonna say fuck with it, but like, like we
Yeah.
have free will to kind of screw it up. And so
Mhm.
yes, we have some really terrible, scary things that happen here. But in essence, if you look around at nature, it's like clouds, trees, rivers, lakes, all of these gorgeous natural phenomena, like these gorgeous landscapes all over the world that just look like there's something from another planet.
Yeah.
So in my mind, that shows that it's a reflection of it's just sort of a copy of, and as are we. I mean, I don't believe that God made us in his literal image, but we are these bundles of love packed into these bodies. And
Yeah.
we are born beautiful. We are born pure. We are born light. It's indoctrination. It's mental illness. It's trauma that turns us into these people that do terrible things. There's so much in there. But when I was talking about fear, right? If the more fear we feel, the more fear is reflected, the more scary things happen. So that's a general observation. And I'm open to any, you know, thoughts that you have on that as we come to the end of this amazing interview. Just love to hear your thoughts about that.
Well, there's this barrier of love that surrounds our existence here. People have identified that love as the veil of forgetfulness. And it is required for us to grow here, because if we could remember how much we love our creator, we would base all of our actions on that love.
Yeah.
But that love is so powerful that we can play around for 80 to 100 years on this rock that rolls around the sun, and we can mess up and get all sorts of trauma and damage done to us while we're here. But when we leave, we take a bath in that love, and it heals us. It uncorrupts the soul. It takes that damage away. So we can choose now to begin that bathing process. Allow that love to bathe you, and don't be a pawn on someone else's chessboard. And understand that if you can understand a single thing from today's video, understand this, that the universe is just you in verse. It is just you turned inside out. So if you're finding trauma and battle everywhere you turn, that means inside you've got trauma and battle everywhere you turn. So start looking for the sunlight, start looking for the beautiful things, and you will start having the beautiful things inside.
Perfect place to end. Vinny Tolman, thank you so much. Honestly, this will stay with me all day and forever. And I really appreciate you taking the time to share. I'm really looking forward to seeing you at IANS. And how can we reach you? How can people reach you to work with you? And where will they find the book link? I assume we can get your book on Amazon.
Yeah, so it's a big hit on Amazon. It's done really, really well, like 100 times better than my best dream. So it's doing amazing. So Amazon, it's called The Light After Death. They can also go to my website, livinggodslight.com, and there they can go to Amazon if they don't want to search it on Amazon. But they can also book sessions with me if they'd like to, leave their trauma and start telling a new story, start releasing the past and allow the future, the beautiful future that's there for all of us. Do the work here in this temple first, and it will turn life into a beautiful temple.
Life changing. Thank you, Vinny Tolman. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. Have a very blessed week. Thanks so much, Shannon.
My pleasure.